Welcome to the Wise Doula podcast, a place for informative, uplifting, and educational conversations. Here we will discuss everything connected to the parenting journey, from conception and birth to postpartum and beyond. You are amongst friends here. This is a place to share our common wisdom and learn together. So go ahead, grab your favorite drink. Remember, not caffeinated if you are expecting, and join me inside. I can't wait to speak with you. Well, hello and welcome back, my dear listeners. It is a pleasure to have you here today. Let me start this episode with a word, gratitude. And another word, rainbow. No, not a regular rainbow, but a rainbow baby. The baby that arrives after a perinatal loss, after a storm. It's called a rainbow baby. And in this episode, we're going to talk about gratitude without a rainbow. This story begins one day, not so long ago, when I'm sitting in my living room listening to Spotify. And a song comes on called Grateful. And the song says, whether it's 10 years or 2 or a lifetime with you, I will be grateful for what I got. At that moment, big fat tears roll down my face. I can't stop sobbing listening to the song. And I'm thinking, why is this song affecting me so much? And I think of our baby, Mary Celeste, that we had to say goodbye to her 8 years ago. And I think how this song is touching me deeply. I am grateful that she was here, but also very, very sad. And let's look at that word, right? Grateful. Do you think grateful is the word I would have used to describe our pregnancy loss 8 years ago? Do you think grateful was the overarching feeling for my husband and I? No. Grateful is not the word I would have chosen 8 years ago. But grateful is the word I use today. And I will tell you why. So remember how the song says, whether it's 10 years or 2 or a lifetime with you, I will be grateful for what I got. Well, we didn't get our lifetime. We had to, in fact, pack a lifetime of memories into a small box of memories that we created for our baby. And no, we didn't have 10 years or 2. We just had 8 weeks. 8 weeks was the time that my womb carried life. 8 weeks was the time that we made plans for our baby. We thought about all the things we would do with her. 8 weeks. And then a goodbye that was too early. I cannot even begin to tell you how much that punched us in the gut 8 years ago. How all the plans and the preparations and all the things that we had already organized in our head for when our baby arrived were gone in a second. Today you're pregnant, tomorrow you're not. Let me tell you how hard it was teaching pre-K at the time and being in the classroom with tons of healthy 3 and 4-year-olds, seeing my baby, our baby, reflected in each and every one of them. Working next to another teacher, my coworker, who was pregnant and about to pop. In fact, The day I miscarried at home was the day I was supposed to attend her baby shower. And so I'm going to school, and all the parents are coming to the door, greeting her, asking about the pregnancy, giving her gifts for the baby. And I'm going through our loss. I see our daughter reflecting in each and every one of those preschoolers. I realize I will not see her start preschool or kindergarten. I will not get to do Halloween with her. We will not get to do Christmas morning gifts with her, or those cute matching pajamas that are such a tradition, especially in the US. None of that. And even though that might seem really menial to you, that's very meaningful to somebody like us who's had to say goodbye to their baby too early. So going back to that word grateful, nah, mm-mm. Grateful was not how I defined myself 8 years ago. How about broken? How about defective? How about my body couldn't do what it was supposed to do? My body failed me. How come everybody else gets their happy ending and we don't get our happy ending? Where did I go wrong? Guilt, guilt, and more guilt. And I will tell you, as much as perinatal loss hurts for both mom and dad, it hurts especially for women because we feel that our body betrayed us. That's exactly what I felt. So what do we do? What do you do with all that? What can you do? You know, when something that you didn't expect happens, when that innocence of the perfect pregnancy is poof gone, when you have been thrown a wrench and you don't know what to do with that wrench. Well, you can do many things, right? You can take that grief and put it in a box and try to forget it. You can try to ignore it. You can open the box and immerse yourself in it. You can open the box and look at it in the light and see it for what it is. And ultimately, grief, it's a whole lot of love that you're not able to give to your baby on this earth. It's transformed into grief, right? Even though if you are religious, you of course have hope that, and you know that you will see your baby again. You still have the fact that you will not get to enjoy every day here on earth with them. In our case, the gigantic wrench that life throws us becomes a moment of sadness, sorrow, and then becomes a moment of opening that box, looking at that grief, identifying it, and naming it. There is the dragon. There is that grief. There is that love that we could not express for our baby here on earth, showing up as grief. And maybe you are blessed that pregnancy loss has not touched you, but let me tell you how devastating it is. Let me put it in simple images for you. 1 out of 4 women will experience pregnancy perinatal loss at some point in their fertility years. So imagine if I am sitting at a cafe with my best friends, Laura, Susan, Esther, and myself. At that table, I am the 1 in 4. So anytime you go to a place with lots of women, whether it's church or a gathering or something, do me a favor and count. And realize how many women in that room, even though you don't know it, have gone through the same thing. So we were talking about how my husband and I start rebuilding, right? We start rebuilding by opening that box, looking at the grief and going, what can we do How can we process this? How can we heal? So we start rebuilding by joining support groups. With support groups, you get the good, bad, and the ugly. You get a little bit of everything. So support groups are a topic that we will go deeper into in another episode. But just know that at that time, we have to do a bit of trial and error. And we try a couple that don't quite work. We finally land on a 1 day retreat that is incredibly healing. So much gratitude for that retreat in Chicago. And after that, we land at a support group at the local hospice, and it's specific to perinatal loss. That's another thing. If you're going to attend the support group, make sure it's specific to perinatal loss because that's where you need to be. And so we attend this support group and we are welcome. We are given space. We are nurtured. We are encouraged. Everybody's stories matter in that group, not a few select people. Everybody gets a chance to share what's going on, how they're experiencing grief, etc. And we learn from each other. It becomes a really rich environment in the midst of all the tragedy and all the grief and all the sadness that we all collectively bring to that circle. And both the retreat and that group are incredibly healing. And in talking to one of the couples from that group, in fact, they had attended the retreat and that group, both. In talking with them comes a huge lesson that grief is not determined by the weeks you carry your baby in your womb. Grief is grief. And at the end of the day, whether I experienced the loss in the first, second, or third trimester, at the end of the day, I have to face the exact same reality. My husband and I had to face the exact same reality, the reality of a lifetime of memories that we would not be making with our baby. A reality of always thinking of them and missing them every day of our lives. That was a really big lesson. Another lesson that I learned is that we shouldn't quantify grief. People that go around saying, oh, my grief is more important because I lost my baby in the second trimester or the third. Your grief is not as important. Your baby didn't matter as much. Maybe that's their life experience. And as far as that, that's fine. But we do not quantify grief in the perinatal loss world. We understand that grief is grief no matter what. And if you are missing your baby, whether they were this small or this small or this small, you have a right to grieve your baby. And you have a right to be supported in that grief. Okay? Super important. In this process, we learn some important lessons. That there is life after grief, in spite of how devastating it is. That the amount of love is not measured in the amount of weeks you were pregnant. And that is in supporting each other where we grow as parents and as bereaved parents. For me, that became a life mission to be a doula and help other families going through bereavement or going through pregnancy, birth, and postpartum, regardless of circumstances. Whether they get their happy birth at 9 months or they don't. And, I'm very grateful. So, yes, today, that's the word I choose. I choose the word grateful. Why? Because I am grateful. I'm grateful for the families my husband and I met in support groups. I'm grateful for the people that ran those support groups and provided space for us. In one of the groups we attended, we had a final project where we all created a box, like a shadow box of memories, including items from all of our babies. And I cannot tell you how healing that craft activity was, that final project for that support group. So very grateful for the people that ran those support groups with compassion and with love, with nurturing in their hearts. Very grateful for our daughter because she was here and she continues being important to this day. And we know we will see her again. And it is thanks to her that I developed this desire to help other families. So yes, I still feel sad that she's not here. My husband and I miss her every day. I still cry many, many times. And I will continue to do so, and it's okay. Tears are fine. Tears are okay. But the gratefulness for her life and for what her life means today, and for the people that we have met along that path, that's also present. And that right now, it's my driving force, our driving force. Today, I want to leave you with a special piece of homework. Remember, you are talking to a teacher. I've been a teacher all my life, and I continue being one, as well as a doula. My piece of homework for today is think about moments in your life when circumstances threw you a gigantic wrench and you were at a loss and you were devastated. But then you saw the light at the end of the tunnel and you started rebuilding. How did you rebuild? How did that difficult circumstance make you change and evolve? And what did you learn after it happened? You know, one final thought. In life, if we could, I think we would do away with all the adverse experiences, right? Let's make sure everything is perfect all the time and I don't have to go through rough times. But that's not the reality of human life. The reality is we're going to have the ups, the downs, the middles. So what we do about it, how we cope with it, what we learn from it, that's where the real gold nugget is. Okay, my wise ones, I will see you in next week's episode. Thank you. Hey, you have listened to the Wise Doula podcast today. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember, everything we discussed today was meant for entertainment and educational purposes only. It does not substitute the advice of your medical provider. Would you do us a favor? Follow me on Instagram at LovingBellyDoula. Also, let me know what other topics you would like to see me discuss in this podcast. And please subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platforms. Thank you so much. I will see you next week.